Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Short Podcast. I'm your host, Ross Baxter, and today is episode 76 of the series. Today on the Short Podcast, we have an amazing environment artist. We have Milan De Laet on the show. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I mean, it's nice to be on the podcast.
Thank you so much, dude. As always, everyone who's tuning into the Short Art Podcast is a weekly series where I bring on guests from the film and game industries to talk about their journey and thoughts on student education. So if you're new to the podcast, don't forget to subscribe and make sure to smash the like button as always. But as always, man, first things first, just tell us a wee bit about yourself.
Yeah, so like you said, I'm Milan. Currently still studying digital arts and entertainment, which is in
Awesome.
Belgium. And also recently started freelancing a little bit on the side
Mm-hmm.
when I have time.
What got you into art?
It's really hard one to start with because I wasn't really gonna get into art to begin with.
Okay.
Like it took me until like I was 17, 18 to start realizing I want to go like into the game arts industry. Before that, I did math science,
Mm-hmm.
so completely different.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and then I started looking for what I wanted to do at university.
Mm-hmm.
So first, it's always been like engineering or architecture, like something like along those lines, because I'm
Mm-hmm.
more of a technical person. Until someone showed me the school that I'm now going to, and I just started looking into it more and more. And I don't know, I just felt like it was a good option
Yeah, definitely.
because I'd never really considered like making games before that. Like I played them, but you don't think what's behind the scenes. So it's basically like seeing the school, seeing what they do, and then like going there, seeing like an open door day, see what happens, and yeah, it really got me into it. So I applied.
Yeah,
Well, not really applied. You can just sign in and start the curriculum. And it was there that I really like found out that I want to do this
that's when it
more than
clicked.
yeah.
That's awesome because that's the thing. So we were actually talking about this before we went live. Because can you actually? So I tried I tried saying it when I was talking to Timothy, but you know me, I'm the worst at pronouncing names. But what's the name of the school the university that you go to?
Well, the actual university is called West,
Okay,
but it's not really major, but like the actual school, like where the game stuff happens, is Digital Arts and Entertainment,
right. Okay,
or DAE, which is most of the things you see online if they talk about the school.
yeah. No, because like that was the thing as well. When it came to university in general, like everyone's always talking about like the best schools, and I was saying to Milan right at the start that this school is literally one of the best schools out there. It's actually ranked fourth in the world. That's been like based off like the best resources out there, and like it's incredible. And we're actually going to dive deep into his course, etc., and also just like the university as a whole, but most importantly his artwork. So stay tuned and enjoy. I guess like the main question first. So like, when was it environment art? Like when did it click that it was environment art that you wanted to do?
Um, I would say like right away almost.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, it's always been like engineering and architecture, like things like that that interested me.
Yep.
So was kind of natural for like environment art. That's also like got me into it. Is like, oh, I can instead of just doing it in the real world and spending years on just like one project where it's like you only design one thing,
Yep.
I can just do like a whole bunch of that in a game
Yep. Definitely.
compared to it. You can like, and it's way more freedom. You don't have to think about like your resources or anything like construction materials. It's just like you do something,
Mm-hmm.
which really like spoke to me.
Yep.
So it was never really a question of do I want to do character or like something else. It was immediately like environment related.
That's awesome. No, because that dude, that was the exact same for me. Like I was literally just like environment art, modeling. That's my life sorted. That's all I need to do.
Yeah, and it started really quickly because like the first thing we do in 3D
Mm-hmm.
is make a small little city scene. So it's
Yep.
like the first assignment that every student has ever taken out of school is make like a small scene with like three houses.
Yep.
So it didn't take long for me to like find out what I want to do
Yeah.
because that's the thing I had the most fun with.
That's amazing. So like when it comes to like your course, so like just tell us a wee bit about it. Like I know we've kind of touched on it so far, but tell us like what's the course about and like what does it involve?
Yeah, so there's basically four courses you can take.
Mm-hmm.
Three are game related. One is VFX, so it's more like compositing, like everything for the film industry, like simulations, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the three game ones, you have the more artistic, technical one, the one I take. Then there's the programming one, and also indie since recently,
Right.
where you get like actually like everything that you need to know to start an indie company.
Yep.
So yeah, the one I take is really art related, but also very technical. And it's really like if you finish that degree, you can just be technical artist as well.
Yep. Wow. Like that's just the thing. Like it's so crazy. Like how good your school is. Like there's so many things available to you. And like when I was reading, when I said to you at the start, so when I was reading through your blog, like there were so many great things. And so I started looking more into the school and seeing the courses, etc. And you even have like an internship fair at your
Yeah,
university. Is that like every single year?
every single year in October, there's the internship fair, like you said. And I think there were 70 companies last year.
70.
Yeah, with about
What?
8 different countries
Oh my
represented,
gosh, that's amazing.
like 150 people. Like it was a big deal, and I think about 15-ish
Mm-hmm.
international companies.
Right. Wow.
So
Okay.
a lot of big names were there as well. Like every year, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Because like at the end of the day, obviously like the name of the podcast is the Sure Art Podcast, and like my whole goal has always been to like obviously identify the main things that are the best resources for students, etc. And people are always trying to ask the question of where do I go, etc. And sometimes I always like to be honest with everyone who's tuning in. Like obviously I want to give you guys the best possible answer. And when I came across your university, I realized that there was just so many things available to you. And also when I was talking to Timothy about it, he was also saying about like how up to date everything is, and it's great seeing it because when I thought of schools, the best schools, I always thought of Nomen. And I actually checked, and your school, your university is higher ranked than Nomen now. And I thought that was just like it was incredible to see.
Yeah.
But all the things that you've done in your course. So are you in your final year of university right now?
I'm doing a little bit of a different plan than like the standard one.
Okay.
So normally it's like a 3-year degree.
Mhm.
So 2 years of classes, and then the last year you have your own group, like your own project
Mhm.
for about 5 weeks where you just do like some research or something, and then the other uh, like 7 to 10 weeks, something like that, it's like a group project where
Mhm.
you basically make a game with some programmers, some artists together,
Right.
and after that it's the internship.
Wait. So,
I decided, yeah, there's an internship like the last semester, so the
mhm.
end of the program is just find yourself an internship, go there, and a lot of people stay afterwards as well at the company because you just graduate right after
Yep.
and you can just be hired. But I did a little bit of a different strategy. Like I did my first year completely, and then I decided to do my second year is split over 2 years.
Okay.
So I basically took like all the courses that I'm interested in, like the environment related ones, but also a few more technical ones
Yep.
in the first year, like in the first year of my 2 years.
Mhm.
And so I had like way more time to really develop my skills and dig deep into everything I wanted to know. And because I wasn't really that much of an artist as well, it was good for me to give myself some more time to learn more about like composition rules, like all those things, because it needs some time.
Mhm.
And then now this year, I'm basically doing the second part where they just take all the other courses basically.
Yep.
There's a few like I'm really interested in. Also got a chance now to do some Houdini stuff because that got available this year as a course. But now I'm like ramping down, also doing some like the freelancing like I told before on the side because I don't have time for that.
Yep.
And then next year I'll have my actual third year.
That's incredible. Wait. So how? Let me try and recap that. So how many years in total have you been there at?
So yeah, it's been 2.5 years.
Right.
So now it's if I finish this year, it's gonna be my third year.
Wow. Like that's so impressive because man, like your work is really good. Like
Thanks,
like
man.
no joke, hands off, incredible artwork. And the fact that you're doing that after like just like 2.5 years, it's breathtaking. It's so good to see. And like that was the thing as well. Like it's sometimes like I said at the start, everyone's always like I said, trying to find out the best place to go and make sure you're getting up to date trends, etc. And like, there's so many great resources out there, but there's also lots of universities that obviously don't teach necessarily the most up to date trends, etc. And when I realized like what your course does, I'll actually make sure I'll let you dive into it because obviously you know more about it. Because what we're going to do as well, we're going to talk about Milan's artwork. We're going to break down a few of his art pieces, as in like, his process, etc. But it'll be kind of cool to hear about like what would you say, like, if you had to recommend your university to our listeners, like, what would you say is like the main reason why you enjoy it?
Well, the main reason I enjoy it is probably like the social aspect.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a lot of more fun to do it like together with like a bunch of friends, and like all my friends come through like this school right now.
Yeah.
It's just an amazing place. Like there's every Thursday there's like study night
Okay.
where like the school stays open and a team of like students keep open the bar, and
What?
there's classrooms
Okay.
open
Yeah. Yeah.
where you can
Nice.
just work until like 10:30, I think,
Yep.
like from 6:30 to 10:30.
Cool.
You can help people out. The bar's open, so everyone's having a drink.
Yep.
Teachers are there, so you can just like have a normal chat with them.
Yep.
So it's really the vibe in the school that's most fun.
Mm-hmm.
And study-wise, I think it's the balance between like artistic and technical.
Mm-hmm.
They don't shy away from giving everyone like technical stuff. Like in the first year, you have an entire year of programming, for example, even though you're an artist,
Yep. Of course.
just to like those things. And on second year, there's things like the scripting, where you do make scripts in Maya using Python,
Oh, interesting.
or
Yeah.
or even making like your own game using blueprints in Unreal, like things like that. So you know actually what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really like a technical artist, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of art involved. So you can just really
Perfect.
go wherever you want.
Yeah, because like that was the thing. Because when I saw, when I first came across your artwork, it must have been about a year ago now. The first time I came across your portfolio, and there was like so much range, and that's one of the things I also think is just really great to see that you're getting taught, and also I know it's your passion as well. But you don't just do stylized; you do a bit of everything. And like seeing you being able to tackle that, and the fact that you've only done it for 2.5 years is one thing I like to encourage everyone who's a student who's listening now is trying those things out. I like to say experiment as much as possible, because when you look at Milan's work, it's incredible because he's not just doing, like I said, he's not just getting trapped in one thing. He's trying different things out. He's seeing what he enjoys, and we'll actually dive into that first. So first things first, it'd be really cool to talk about your Exile piece. Making dioramas, etc. So just tell us a wee bit about the project. So what got that project kind of started? So why did you want to make a diorama?
Well, it actually started with a course.
All right, okay,
Yeah,
even better, perfect.
but even a week before it, basically. So from the Dynasty server, there was a challenge
Yep.
to make give the monthly challenge on the Dynasty Empire
Okay.
to make an environment, and there were I think like 15-ish steps
Mhm.
to start with your blockout and your like basic steps. And the example that we got was also a small stylized diorama. And I've really wanted something more stylized on my portfolio, and also diorama for like the longest time.
Yep.
So I started on that, which was normally like a small little train carriage that like got lost in the woods, so like
Mhm.
abandoned. But only like a week later, the actual semester started, and we got our assignment for the course sculpting. And would you guess it was a small diorama that's stylized?
That's awesome.
So I basically just threw away that block code I had before and started designing on this. And the actual assignment was it's inspired from D&D, where there's a character who just is traveling around like a traveler, and he has like his camp set up. But like they didn't really want a tent, but just the gear of the person, like in the woods or in a dungeon, something like that.
Mhm.
Um, and you could use concept art if you wanted or something, but it's been a long time that year that I did some actual concepting or drawing, so I took it as like an opportunity to make my own and go from there.
Yep. No, that's really cool because that's literally what so I've got like two projects on the go at the moment. I'm doing like a Harry Potter piece and then a train piece, and I'm going to be making the Harry Potter piece like a diorama. And it's really nice when you see dioramas, because one of my friends who works at Ubisoft, he was like obsessed with them. And then there's an artist, a really incredible artist. Her name's Anya Joelfage. I hope
Yeah,
I'm pronouncing.
I think I know who it is. Yeah,
And she's just
her,
amazing.
her
And
dioramas are like big inspiration for what I made. Yeah,
it's just like it's so colorful, and and just like going back to the word experimenting again, like when I saw your piece, it was like the color that just instantly stood out. And then another artist who's amazing at stylized as well, who I saw was also an inspiration for you, was Jasmine.
yeah,
And
of course.
Jasmine, oh, like just her work's just incredible, absolutely amazing. And like when it comes to like the diorama side of things, it'd be kind of nice to hear like what's your thought process. So what was like the things that you learned when you were working on it?
So I'm gonna start with like the concept because it really took like a long time for me. I'm not that much of a concept person,
Mm-hmm.
but it was fun tackling it. So I started with like some ideas, some stories, and go from there. Then during the actual internship fair, it's just fun. And I took that as an opportunity to like show my portfolio, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But after portfolio review, I always showed like the concept I was at and get feedback from like people like Timothy was there, for example. I got feedback from him and two other people from Ubisoft.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave like amazing feedback also from my concept artist who was there. And then I like the evening itself, I got back, started drawing again. So the next few days, I took all of that, and I think the main focuses for this concept was basically like color, like you talked about,
Mm-hmm.
and see what I could do. And like it's very like the green, you have the brown with the what's it called, the beige. I'm not sure if like the
Like,
same word, but
what was the word there? Beige, did you
like
say?
beige, like
Yeah, 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 yeah.
the light brown,
Yep,
like
definitely.
those colors, and
Nailed
then the
it.
reds.
Perfect.
Yeah, a lot of red accents.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the idea that I was going for,
Cool.
like how I would play around with it.
Yep.
Um, yeah, that's basically the main thing. Like there was not a lot of stylization in the way they were formed.
Yep.
It's small bit, but most of it is really in the colors, in
Yep.
texturing.
I'm really glad you brought that up because there's one thing that I feel that like even myself, like I'll admit it, I'll always be transparent with everyone, is people's understanding of color and exploring color and understanding, like you said, like what color works with what and getting the right balance overall just to make your piece stand out more. And especially when it comes to stylized art, like there's so much things going on, and people obviously like it is very like it's not easy making your own style or trying to develop a style, like there's so many different things to take on board, etc. But the fact that you dived into it and it was it like your first time doing stylized that you said?
Well, the actually stylized, yes, like you have the small city on my portfolio as well,
Mm-hmm.
which could count as stylized, but it's very much realistic
Yep.
with a little bit of color change and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, doing stylized, yes, I think it was my first time.
Wow, like, dude, it's
Oh,
crazy.
wait, no, there is actually no. I did. There was a course in the first year called Game Art,
Okay.
which is mostly focusing on hand painted stuff. So they're stylized in there.
Yep.
So I'm lying a little bit.
It's fine.
The Yeah, I don't like hand painting that much.
Okay.
I might want to go back, like try it again after like those years now.
Yep.
But at the point, it was too tedious and too much like having to go in there. I'm more a fan of like actually doing PBR. So that's also what I did with this piece.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's awesome. Well, at least you know what I mean. Like that's the reason why you have to do these things because you don't know until you try it,
Yeah,
and like that's the main reason why people go to university. Like I understand a lot of people tend to think going to university means trying to get a job, etc. But that's not really the case. You go to university to see what it is that you want to get out of it. Like, is it stylized you want to go into? Is it PBR, etc.? Is it film? What kind of process do you want to do as a career? And the more you try early on, like that's why Milan is such a perfect example as a student because there's so much things that he's done that he's been able to identify what his passions are based off exactly. And that's what everyone should be doing that's tuning in. Like try different things and see where it takes you. Because I know you said there you're not much of a concept artist, but that's okay. You tried it out, and when I was reading your blog, experimenting with composition, trying these things out, seeing what gives the character story. Because I know when I was reading about your piece, story was like one of the main challenges for the project.
yeah. I had a hard time finding a decent story
Mm-hmm.
still. At the beginning, I was like very much focusing on the hunter aspects,
Yep.
and but there was not much going on with it. It was just like a small little shield, hunter shield with a spear, and that was it. There was like not no meat to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I started experimenting. I added like the little bunny, like some friends suggested to show maybe like he was good at hunting, but then we had the idea to like, oh, he's a bad hunter, so he's only gonna had fruit and stuff, even though
Yep.
he has weapons. But it didn't really show. And then after the feedback I got during that day, I went more like towards the warrior, who is like everything like his gear is kind of broken in a mess
Mm-hmm.
and just going around. You see, it's like he's alone. He's just traveling, and that's more of like a story that started to get. I'm not really too happy with like the story yet,
Okay.
even though it's done. At one point I needed to start.
Yep. No,
The
but that's a good
it's
thing though, because
it
like
was a good, it was a hard challenge. Let's
oh,
put that way.
I completely understand because when it comes to story, like it's always it's not the easiest part. It's the main thing that makes people intrigued into the artwork. But if like I think you nailed it really well. Like I think the story was nice. It was and the one thing that I think you stayed really true to, which was great to see, was and it's one thing I actually want to talk about on today's podcast is sometimes keeping certain things simple because I'm a very how can I say I'm one of those people like to naturally overcomplicate a lot of things, and I'm sure there's a lot of people tuning in who tends to uh, overthink things when it comes to story, or they have so many ideas that they're just geeking out about, like they want to do this, and that. But sometimes the nicest thing is just seeing something very simple and straight to the point and direct, and people can be like, right, I get what's going on here. So we've got a knight, we understand. Like you said, he's exiled. We've got the story within the shield, etc., and the quality's there, which is the most important thing. Because at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you can do high quality artwork, and that's the thing that strongly comes through in your artwork. And everyone who's tuning in, like you never know, try out with dioramas because that's what I'm doing at the moment, and I think it's really rewarding. And it's great to see what you're doing over there. Like carrying on with the same kind of topic as well. In terms of I'll shoot to your next project. So it's called Lost. So the Lost art piece. The one thing I really want to ask because I have no idea. I've never done it before. How did you make the snow?
Like the snow as in on the floor, or just in general, like the trees, everything. Because
Yeah,
it,
a bit of everything would be great because I've never done snow. It looks really cool.
well, yeah, I had neither. So it was basically also my first real project in Unreal. It's
Okay.
like for a course again, um, where you had to make a ruin scene. That's it, and you light it.
Yep.
But you can use resources from online and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I got an amazing concept. You can see like at the bottom.
Yep.
And yeah, the snow, how do you tackle it? So the floor basically is just like a tile ball you found. But the hard part was like really grounding stuff in the snow.
Say that again. Sorry.
Like that, it's just a tile ball on the floor. The ground is just.
All right. Okay.
But like making it feel grounded because in the beginning of the GIF you can see it's just like it's a plane with a texture on it.
Yep.
So once I put in the trees, I started putting some meshes around it that are actually rock meshes with the texture of snow.
Mhm.
And it's like pebbles, so it kind of has like these bumps in it, which worked really well.
Yep.
And then on the trees itself, I made a shader, which is also in the piece, that basically like makes the snow grow onto the tree based on its height map. So I have like some variety in there, and it feels more attached to the tree.
Yep.
And apart from that, also like in the leaves, because most of the leaves were in the back ones, like the trees in the front, you don't really see the leaves. I
Okay.
could just draw a bit on top of the texture, like on the base color, and that
Yep.
did the trick.
Right. Nice. Right. I didn't expect that.
There were some really simple things actually going on.
Yep. Well, that's always a good thing. Like sometimes, do you know when you have that moment when you're like doing 3D art and like you're thinking it's like, right, it's got to be something serious, complicated or something. Like you're wondering like how on earth did they make that? And then they'll just tell you like the biggest obvious secret, and you're like, yeah, it was just like one click of a button or something. And you're like, how dare you?
Yeah.
It's
Like
so
the most
cool.
complicated thing I did was probably the shader on the trees,
Yep.
which it was easy because then I could like rotate them and like use them wherever.
Mhm.
But I could have just drawn a mouse and painter on it and it was done.
Yep.
So
Nah.
I might have overcomplicated, but it got me some experience with more shader stuff, so I learned from it. It's a good thing.
No, that's awesome. That's really sick. That's really cool to hear. Because like when I saw that piece, like this is the thing that also one thing I really like about all your artwork is obviously like the range is really cool, but it's how you do like your lighting and like you also experiment with lots of things that's not just like the obvious. Because like this is one thing that I did a lot last year was experimenting with like fog and like fire, like you name it, like, even going into like particles, etc. Like obviously you've got volumetric fog, and like I've seen that a lot in your artwork, and it'd be actually really cool to hear. Like, what's your like when do you decide to add these kind of extra details, and what do you feel it brings to an art piece?
So lighting wise, yeah, as you say, I love volumetric fog.
Mm-hmm.
It's in most of the things I make nowadays. Um, but I really started early with the lighting and like those things
Mm-hmm.
because I've always had the sense of like lighting is the most important part. So
Definitely,
why
yeah.
why wait till the end?
Mm-hmm.
So I basically start with it during my block out.
Okay.
And I'm really like a person who looks at the big picture.
Yep.
And that's like during my diorama, I did like more detailed. It's probably like the only piece so far where that's the case. Normally, I'll just take the big picture. I get my camera angle early,
Mm-hmm.
get my block out, get some lighting in, and then I see like where is the biggest holes in the piece right now, like what is like obviously not good, and I work a bit on that, and then ask it again, work a bit on that part, and just go from there, just build it up. But in every few iterations I do, I always change the lighting as well in between.
Mm-hmm.
So the lighting changes throughout the piece. Like every day, I at least touch something that's to do with lighting.
That's it. That's awesome. Thank you for saying that, because that was actually one of the questions that I wanted to ask you. Was we'll obviously touch on the particles and the fog, etc. But when you said there about you like pretty much dive straight in, so I take it you're literally just into Unreal, getting something set up through your block out, and constantly adjusting, going back and forth.
Yeah, I think you can see it really well in the GIFs. Most of my pieces have like a GIF
Mm-hmm.
next to it. I'm thinking, like, especially the ones that are really like a scene.
Yep.
So what is it? The sci-fi city, Lost, my latest one with Trapped. Especially those three.
Mm-hmm.
It's the first thing you see is just like some boxes with lighting.
Yep.
It's the first image
No.
because that's actually like how I work. Like that's the screenshots. I'm not like taking back. I just take screenshots like every day,
Yep. Awesome.
so you can really see how like things develop. But also every single time the light changes, like every single screenshot almost, you see some changes in the light. And in the beginning it's more drastic, and towards the end you get like more subtle and subtle
Mm-hmm.
until I'm happy with it, and then I just leave it alone. And
Yep.
I touch like some small details probably in the scene, but it's really in the beginning drastic big changes, and then go from there, iterate on it.
Definitely. No, thanks for saying that, because like when it comes to, especially when it comes to when I was starting out, I always kind of got trapped into the kind of do one thing completely, like modeling non-stop, and then move on to the next, if you know what I mean. But
Yeah,
you don't know the answers unless you kind of get it straight into the engine, especially for game artists. Obviously, it translates over to other fields as well, but when it comes to working in game engines, like you have no idea like how things are going to react differently, whether it's lighting, whether you've got the scale right. Like a scale is the thing I literally try and preach 24/7, because I think scale is how can I say it? A lot of people tend to get just certain elements out of proportion, and I think it's really important to kind of nail down. But the fact that you do that and you're constantly bringing it into the engine, because that's what you're going to be looking at. Like that's the final product.
yeah,
So everyone who's tuning in, you have to make sure to try and get into that good habit, because that's a great process, and I understand like a lot of people do that, but we want to see obviously more students doing it. So everyone who's tuning in, if you're wanting to obviously aim for a better quality, start going back and forth, keep reiterating, keep updating, and most importantly, keep organized. Because if you keep things organized and clean, that'll be such a smoother pipeline for you guys, and you'll be more efficient in general, and you'll have a lot less stressful moments. Put it that way.
yeah. Like talking about like going back and forth, like most of the time when I texture something,
Mm-hmm.
I do some base colors in Painter. I
Okay.
export it immediately into my Unreal file, and then I start texturing. And every few small changes, I do export, and then I see on my second screen how this look in Unreal.
Yep.
I do some changes in Painter again, so how does it look in Unreal. So instead of like using the Painter view, I mostly use like my engine view.
Mm-hmm.
See how does it react with everything, how does it work, instead of modeling, texturing, and then putting in the engine.
Yep.
It's way more iterative, and also using different pipelines than actually always doing a high poly with a bake. Sometimes I use like some other um, things that I is more iterative.
Mm-hmm.
So I can do like some mid poly, see how that looks in engine, then maybe do face with normals or some other array that it's faster. And because it's a small detail, you won't see it. I'll just do it with face with normals or something like that,
Yep.
and see how it looks. If it doesn't work out, you can still make it high poly and stuff.
Of course. Well, like that's the thing as well. That just made me remember. So like, I remember. So there was this one time. It was actually my fourth year. So in my final year of university, I was going through this. How can I say? Like I was testing my pipeline out and seeing what kind of worked for me. And I always found it interesting how just like how can I subtle adjustments can make a big impact, if you know what I mean. And I had, so on one screen I had like Marmoset Toolbag, and the other screen I had Substance Painter, and then I had like in the middle was Unreal. And then each three, like there was always like you could just tell everything was different. and it was just whether it's something different with the setup, you name it, whatever it was. Like there was always going to be a slightly different outcome, because I always used to think when I used the render port in Substance Painter, like that's what it's going to be exactly like. But then, like you said, going back to your main point, like you said earlier, is once you have your scene already set up with the lights, etc., it's going to be completely different, because obviously things are going to reacting through the bounce light, etc., you name it, whatever it is, the volumetric fog, all these amazing things that tie it to a final piece. And like that's why doing what Milan's doing is like making sure that you're constantly going into the final product file. So don't get carried away with the, like, obviously it's great to see what the outcome looks in Substance, but until you actually see it in engine, you're not going to know its true final form, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's one thing to have like a nice prop on its own, but what's it going to do if it doesn't work with the scene? And most of my scenes you can actually see it, like every single part of it doesn't look good, like at all. Even
what do you mean by
like
that?
except
Wait, say
for
that again, sorry?
yeah, so except for the diorama, if you look at like the other scenes, there's not a single piece or like an asset or a texture that actually looks nice.
Right.
They're all kind of scrapped together.
Okay.
But the whole works.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
like the final product, you mean?
Yeah, the final product.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the
right,
actual
okay.
scene, it kind of works, but everything that's in it is actually like almost garbage at some point. Like even, I think Omega City, like the sci-fi city,
Yep.
is the best example of that, because it's basically just a bunch of boxes
Okay.
with a really simple like crunch on it, made in the designer. And in the designer, I mean you just take some grunge maps and you blend them together, and that's it.
Yep.
And they just throw on everything. There's like one material on almost everything. And it's the lighting that just makes the scene.
Yep.
And that goes for most of the things I've been making. It's like there's no good asset in there. I'm not much of an asset maker,
Okay.
but it's the scene that does it, like the lighting, just the overall feel of it.
Yep. Well, I know what you mean, because at the end of the day, like this is one thing. Obviously I have no idea. Like I've not been at your course, but everything I've heard, like I said, has been great. But that was one thing that I was never really ever taught. Was how important lighting is. Like everyone always likes to teach you whether it's life drawing skills or basic pipeline modeling, etc. But there's not many people I hear looking into lighting, and like that was a great thing. I remember it wasn't even intentional, but there was one part of when I was doing my podcast that I had 5 guests of lighting artists in a row come on, and I was just like, whoa, here we go. And it was amazing to hear all these great lighting artists talking about how important different aspects are to their final piece. And it's the thing, like you said, it's what makes or breaks an art piece. Like if you have bad lighting, everything's just going to not make sense. Things could be looking flat, you name it. And like spending time in lighting can go such a long way. It doesn't matter how simple the object is. Like if you really appreciate lighting, like there's some really great YouTube channels for lighting. So if you guys are tuning in, I'll put the links in the description below, because there's a lot of great lighting artists out there. One thing, by the way, it'd be great, since you brought up the topic about the city building piece. First of all, this is another thing that I think is really cool to see in your portfolio, is because it's like city building. Can you tell me a wee bit about this piece? It'd be great to hear.
So the Omega City one you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah.
So it started. If you read the blog, you've probably seen it with like some procedural stuff. I found like the Prefabicator, which was a nice tool for that.
Yeah.
It didn't work out in the end, so I just did it manually, which was a bit of a shame. But it's not that big. It looks bigger than it is.
Yeah, it looks massive.
Yeah, it looks massive, but basically it's just a bunch of copied boxes.
Yeah.
So it's actually fine. But I've always had like this interest in like proceduralism and stuff. So in the beginning, I was just focusing more on art, and cities are of course a great example of proceduralism where you can use it.
Of course.
But now I've been like getting more and more into it. So last year I spent like most of the time learning things like lighting. Now it's mostly like things like Houdini, and I'm really trying to figure out like how can I make stuff in there. How can I build like more procedural tools, be less destructive in my workflow? So that's something I really want to tackle more.
Yeah.
But yes, cities always come back in my pieces, and they will probably in the future as well.
Oh, I'm looking forward to seeing it, man. Looking forward to seeing it. Because
Yeah. Right now, I'm just focusing on making like some smaller things.
okay,
But probably later on this year, I'm gonna make like an actual art piece again,
yep,
using a lot of different tools that I'll be making.
nice. Because like that was the thing. So when I came across the like I've never heard of it. So the word is prefabricator plugin for
Yeah,
city generation. And so when I was reading through that, I was like, wait, what is this? Obviously, it makes sense in the title, but I've never seen it actually being used in terms of as a tool. I remember hearing one of Jeremy's streams. Jeremy was talking about. I'm not sure if it's related to Google Maps, but it's like there's a tool that creates cities
yeah.
or something
It
through
wasn't a
like some
hype
sort
beat.
of plugin. I really need to figure it. I need to do some research, and then I'll put the link. If I find it, everyone who's tuning in, I'll make sure to put the link in the description as always. But it was just some sort of tool that generated cities, and then you could also always focus on the main centerpiece or the main part of the composition and just model that yourself. But it's nice to have that kind of tools, like we discussed, that kind of create these scenes really quickly, and most importantly, like you said, trying something different, because like I've never done that before. I've never used them like some sort of plugin. But I understand. Well, actually, I've used HDRIs and stuff. If that counts. I love HDRIs, but like, what would you say was like the main thing you learned from this project?
Um, Light baking is like one of the things,
Okay.
because the piece before that, like the last one, is only movable lights,
Mm-hmm.
just to learn how to play with it. But this was a piece with actually like baked lighting, so like how to control that, how to play with things like that, how to get like a nice result.
Yeah.
And optimization was a big part as well,
Right. Perfect.
but because it needed to be optimized, you needed to be able to run at like a decent speed.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in the end it ran at like 55 frames.
Right. Wow.
But so that was okay. There's one big thing I didn't think about, and that's draw calls. Because
Uh,
I didn't even know it was a thing before this.
what was the
Um,
word? Sorry.
Draw calls.
Drocals.
Yeah.
What's
So in an engine, you need to always like make sure your meshes are loaded in before you can use them, and textures, everything you use,
yeah.
and that's everything relies on a draw call. So it's actually like you draw call it from your memory onto your actual memory, like the
Oh,
running
right. Okay.
in
I've
your
never heard
RAM.
of this. Right. Interesting.
That's something I found out because I was loading a lot of things for this scene.
Yep.
Uh, because like when you turn around and you turn back to the scene, it needs to like import everything again. Like I'm not sure how it works. I'm not that good with it, but that's
Okay.
how I thought it works,
Yeah. Yeah.
or I figured it out during the thing, making it. And it took about I think 7, 8 seconds before like I had a freeze frame, 7, 8 seconds, and then it was loaded in and run at like 50, 60 frames. But
Yep.
it had to draw in everything before it actually worked.
Yep. Wait. Is
It's
it?
something I figured out.
Do you mean like quote me if I'm wrong, but it's like LODs and stuff? Because I remember
Well,
reading into your it was like you were talking about like this is one thing I thought was really cool like because I never got taught this when I was studying is so you did LODs, so you did three. I know you did the generated ones, but still the fact that you were thinking of that for that project like that was great to see.
yeah, so that's mainly have an impact on the frames because it's actually a render time
Mm-hmm.
because there's just less polygons to render
Yep.
and also less polygons in the same pixel, which is
Mm-hmm.
like a big issue. A lot of time when something's far away, we have multiple polygons in the same pixel, which can create like problems renderize.
Mm-hmm.
But doing lots, you just reduce that. So it didn't really have an effect on the draw calls.
Right.
It
Okay.
might even increase them. I'm not sure on the technicalities on that. I haven't looked into it that much,
Yep.
but I could try to fix it, the draw color thing, by combining meshes more. So they're more like one unique step because now there's just a lot of small parts. So if I would combine them, maybe like even an engine, you can combine them. I'm not sure.
Yep.
It would reduce the draw call amount, and that would be fixed. But like
Perfect.
the lots only work on actual render performance.
Yep. I'll have to look into that because I've never really looked into that before. That's really nice to hear because like that's always the thing. Like there's so many things that happen to your project that just naturally happens. Just common mistakes, errors, etc. Lots of people go through crashes, etc.
Yeah,
And they're like the worst. And you're always trying to figure out, wait, why is it crashing? Is it this? Is it because of that? And then sometimes it's something really simple, and then sometimes you have no idea why it's crashing. It's just you're trying to figure out for ages, and maybe you're the most efficient person ever, but you still trying to figure out why. But that's where all this experimenting comes into play, because the more you try these things out, like that's why it'd be great to see more artists kind of maybe experiment with these plugins, even though they may not be always used all the time in certain pipelines, etc. But there's a lot of industry people that are using obviously generated things, you name it, whatever it is. And if it speeds up your pipeline and it gets you to the quickest result or the best result you can get, then go with it. Because that was one of the things that I'm not sure if you've seen it, Milan, but there's a great talk. It was at GDC, I think it was a few years ago, and it was basically so the title was "Why Concept Art is Dead" or something.
Oh yes.
It was by what's his name? So it was not Maciej Kusiera. It was his friend. It was Shadi Safari.
Yeah, Shadi Safari. Yes.
And he was talking about why concept artists need to start using 3D. But that's the same thing for 3D artists. So more 3D artists should start using tools to just try things out, because these tools aren't going to be taking your job away. They're just there to kind of guide you and help you and see what standard is, kind of, how can I say it, like what's happening now in the industry. Like trends are changing all the time. Like that's why I was saying at the start of the podcast with Milan that when I was studying, it's completely different to what it is now. But that's great to see, because it's just evolution. It's just naturally things change all the time.
Yeah.
But like
it keeps changing. Like
yeah, of course.
Even now, I'm kind of jealous of people who are going to start at my school now.
Right. Okay.
The first year they're going to get procedural, like
wait, really for first year?
Yeah, the first year, and just getting like grounded.
Yeah.
And then during the second year, they have procedural environments and procedural assets, like two courses. What? So it's like things like that. I'm like, oh, I'm learning that all on my own now, but they just get it. Even in the first year now, when we just had maths, like basic maths, but now you're actually using maths in Houdini to like basically shader wise.
Yep.
So they actually like apply it, so you know what's going on, things like that. So it will keep changing, and it's always going to be like, damn it, I wish I had that.
Yep. No, but that's the reason why I like doing the podcast as well, because that's like the beauty of it, because as long as people are getting the updated stuff, as long as it's changing all the time, and as long as the education's doing it, then that's when we know things are on the right track, and that's the most important part. But I completely feel where you're coming from, dude. So the next thing I think would be really cool to talk about, speaking on the subject, and it was also talking about what we were saying earlier, it's just because I saw when you added it, I was like, hell yeah, we all need fire in our art pieces at times. Just because it's something different, it's fun, because why not? Who doesn't want to work with fire? Anything special effects or just additional details goes such a long way. It'd be great to hear. So like, was it something simple? I understand there's certain tools, because I'm not an expert in Unreal. I've always done things in Maya and Arnold and V-Ray, etc. But it'd be great to hear. So like, how did you do the fire and like all the smoke?
So the fire from the city, I'm guessing like the exhausts pipes. Yeah.
Yep.
At that point, we have a course on real-time effects, but that was I'm only taking it this year.
Okay.
So now I actually know how to build it from scratch from myself, but back then I didn't. So I just followed some tutorials, played with settings, and plugged it in there. So it didn't take that long. I already know how to work with blueprints, so setting that up was pretty easy. So it's like a small randomizer, which is a few nodes. But yeah, it's just a small tutorial, because fire is like everywhere, right? So you just Google fire tutorial in Real, and 1,000 results pop up.
Yep, definitely.
So things like that are easy. Same with the smoke, actually. It's a friend of mine found it.
Okay.
It's a cloud shader we found online.
Right.
I just repurposed it, changed some settings, went to the shader, and also did a few tweaks in there, so it would work as actual fog. So you actually have like fog particles as well in there, which work well because the actual volumetric fog is too soft. It's always like very linear, and I needed some actual textures in there. So something like that to provide more textures and feel of more fog than only volumetric.
Nice. That's awesome. Because when it comes to volumetric fog, I think I said it. I've said it on about 2 podcasts now. But the reason why I like to bring it up, because it really helps just sell your piece. As long as you don't go too crazy with it, there's a healthy balance, we all know. But it really helped me with a few of my art pieces, and it just, like you said, it gives atmosphere, it gives mood, it gives story, and that word we can't highlight its importance. Story is like the thing that we want to see in art pieces all the time because it helps give meaning. Sometimes you don't need to tell a story, depending on what you're working on. But at the end of the day, technically everything has story, and the more you can sell it, whether it's through adding certain effects, even if you did like, so this is one thing that I tried out was. At the time, I didn't know I'd use fire and I didn't know I'd use fog. So I was like, right, we're getting PNGs of fog and fire. So that's literally what I was doing. So I was trying to figure out. The end result was not pretty, I'll admit. Therefore, I had to figure out the correct resources. I actually got a thing from Phoenix. By the way, this is an amazing website that I highly recommend everyone to check out. So Phoenix is an amazing plugin done by Chaos Group. And I always like to bring up Chaos Group because Chaos Group has literally everything. Like if you're wanting to learn how to get like VFX stuff or like not VFX stuff, sorry, or like particles, etc. There's full breakdowns from start to finish for everything for Max. I'm not sure Blender, but I know it's like Maya, ZBrush, etc. Well, it shows you all the main tools to get that into your software of choice. And also ties into my pipeline for V-Ray, etc. and Arnold. Obviously, it's different for Unreal, but I'm pretty sure there's a section on Chaos Group for Unreal as well. I might be completely wrong, don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure it is. It's been a while since I've checked, but Chaos Group literally showcases not only just lighting, particles, etc. It's everything. It's modeling, you name it. It's all free. And it's all written detail as well. So everyone who's checking out, I highly recommend you to look into that because speaking on our topic of particles, it's just a nice touch because it gives a story and it gives how can I say it gives you that extra layer of depth, and I think that's super important. But the one last question when it comes to this project, I really wanted to ask if you like, what would you say was the mistakes that you did? Is there anything that you would redo?
Well. I wouldn't say there's like a bland mistake, as in like nothing very much done wrong. It's just sometimes I put the emphasis on the wrong stuff. It took me a little bit too time to do like materials, for example. So you can see I did some materials for it in the blog. Well, you didn't see them in the end, so that took time that was kind of wrongly spent.
Right. Okay.
But what I would completely do different now is put a little more time into the details in the foreground. Because the platform is it's not pretty. I mean, it's just some boxes. It feels empty as well. So I would fill that up more. Put actually some time into the platform. Because
Well, and you go. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
off.
Like
the foreground, like the background, you can get away with it. I feel, but in the foreground, I tried to, and it didn't really work.
Right. Yeah, because like that was the thing, and so the reason why I asked the question was actually. One of my friends who I was talking a while back, he raised the question of start asking more people about like what do they do wrong, just so people can learn from that, if you know what I mean. Because I think it's always important to understand. Well, it's not necessarily what you did wrong; it's just what you learn from your mistakes. Like, we all have these things. Like as artists, we naturally have that thing in our mind of right. Oh, I wish I tweaked that. And I was actually talking to on the episode 3 of the breakdown. I felt so sorry for Rue. Rue's a good friend, and Rue was basically saying he actually lost one of his files, of his main files of his best art piece. I felt so sorry for him, but it was like he was like telling me, and everyone who was tuning in, his like, what would you change? And like that's always like the nice thing, because when people are trying to figure out to get to that next level, like how could I make it better, goes such a long way. And like you said earlier, like doing stylized versus doing, for example, the city scene, like there's lots of different things going on. You learn as you go along, and it's super important. But one of the things I realize as well, like this is another thing I've got so much catching up to do, man. I've got so much catching up to do. But what's this? Can you tell me about the ultimate trim generator? Because I've never heard of this.
Well, it wasn't just a small thing I used, but I'm not sure for who it was. I can look it up later, but I think it's mentioned in the blog, right?
Yeah, it's so by a guy called Justin Lazaro.
Yeah.
So that was the name of the artist who creates the tool.
Yeah. So basically, it just made it easier to make a trim sheet. That's it. It made the block out, so you could just give in like I want some like divide by so many, and then you could just use it.
Okay.
So it was just a small little thing that I found online. I think it came online while I was working on the project.
Right.
I was like, oh, that's nice. I can just use this now. So I just plugged it in and used it. But all it did, it divides up your um, texture into different scales, but
Mm-hmm.
they're all like kind of on a grid, let's say. So you don't have to do it yourself.
Yeah. No,
So
that's awesome.
it's just a small thing. And if I come across things like that, like the same with the prefabricator, I was
Yeah.
looking like how can I do something procedural,
Mm-hmm.
even though I don't know anything about making procedural things with blueprints or Houdini at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I just found that and I was like, oh, I might try that. It didn't work out in the end, but it's always nice to find like these small tools that could help.
Yeah. Well, that was the other thing as well, because like when it came to just like modular, like people always like to talk about, because it's so important, is like modular assets is so important in the industry, and the more efficient, like we discussed, it goes a long way, and being able to make things super efficient. Just speaking of modular, like when I looked at your piece, there was literally like you had your three main breakdowns, and showcasing that in a portfolio is crucial. So, like, what would you say that you learned from doing modular work?
Yeah, I don't like making just a nice prop and then making the next one. So with
Mm-hmm.
modularity, I can just make a few, throw
Yeah,
them around, and create a scene that way.
yeah,
And it's just the idea of not spending a lot of time on something for me
yeah.
personally. But you can make nice props as well, just a few nice modular props,
Mm-hmm.
and play with that. So
Perfect.
it's just a nice workflow because it's fast. I don't need to spend time on like every single different piece. So it's a no-brainer almost to use.
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you so much for diving into that, because when it came to the podcast, there was a lot of like three main topics that I wanted to discuss, and we've talked about two of them so far. So the next one that I wanted to bring up, so this is something that actually happens in the UK as well, but I didn't realize it actually happens in Belgium as well. It must be a global thing, but it's search for a star. So how did you get into this, or like where did you hear about it?
But I'm not sure if it's actually like a global thing, but
Right.
it's kind of like the UK, and then the few countries around it might participate in it as well.
Okay.
Um, but so someone from my school has been participating. Like a few people from my school have been participating in the last few years. And Jimmy Hazens,
Mm-hmm.
he won 2 years ago the Rising Star, and last year he won Search for a Star for
Mm-hmm.
environment. So seeing that, I was like, okay, let's participate as well. See see where it gets me. So that's kind of how it went.
Yeah.
But our school also promotes it. Like every year, the people from Gretchen Games have been coming to our school, giving the talk about Gretchen Games and promoting Search for a Star as well.
Yeah.
But it doesn't align well with our schedule
Okay.
because the end of the challenge, when you have to hand it in, is also the end of our exam period.
Yeah.
So it's literally in the middle of the exams.
Yeah, that's the thing as well. So that's the same here in the UK.
Okay.
It was the same thing. So I never entered it myself, but one of my best friends entered it. He actually came on the podcast, and he came second,
Mm.
and it was just the fact that, like, I think I was in third year at the time, or no, actually, was it third year? Yeah, it would have been third year, because it was the first. It's when I got into university, and the first time I heard of. By the way, everyone who's tuning in, it's Search for a Star competition that I'm talking about. So Search for a Star is literally basically, like Milan was saying, it's almost like a, like, would you, is it internships basically you get at the end of it, or like a
Um,
job offer, or is it?
yeah, you can get them. There's studios coming by, but if you finish first, you're probably good enough to get an internship at one of those places.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't necessarily like immediately get it. I know Jimmy didn't take one, but took one somewhere else. We found himself.
Yeah.
But it's also weird for us because the timing is very bad.
Yeah.
By the time we know that we won or we didn't, or like when the final things happen, we should already be doing our internship.
Mm-hmm.
So the only reason I could participate now is because I did my second year in 2 years.
Yeah.
So I had the skills now from last year, and I only have to do my internship next year. So I kind of got the opportunity now, but not a lot of people do.
Of course.
So there's not a lot of people participating that way as well.
Yeah. Like that's always the thing, because like there's like I wouldn't say I was a culprit of this when I was studying, but there's when there's so many things going on, which is great because there's nothing wrong with lots of things going on and opportunities out there. Because I always like to say, grab it while you can, because you never know. It might go a long way, and it might help you get a job. Because at the end of the day, that's why we study. And when it comes to just studying in general, like especially in that case, like for example, I would have done, like for example, if it was just 1 year, obviously what you did I think was a great idea, and it's great having that as an option. But if you only have the 1 year, then I'd probably just prioritize the uni.
I'll definitely do that.
But then again, it's kind of difficult as well, because like you're trying to figure out what's going to get you a job, because we all know that grades don't mean anything in our industry, but it does showcase that you work, etc., and that you're committed, and it shows that you can keep to a timeline. But maybe, like, I don't know, search for a star might be like your way to get your foot in the door. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. It's hard balance to make.
Mm-hmm.
I took a decision for myself. Like, I don't care about grades that much anymore.
Yep.
At this point, like, of course, I need to pause everything, and the courses that I really want to focus on, I try to, like, of course, get better grades. But that's kind of natural. When you put time into it,
Mm-hmm.
you will get it. And the other ones, I just try to get them and then get away with putting as little much, like, as little time into it as possible, while still getting a decent result and passing.
Yeah.
But it's hard to do. Like, I don't see anyone being able to pull it off, having like an entire year of courses
Yeah.
and still being able to participate there and do well. It would be really hard. Like, all the people who've done it so far,
Yeah. Because
and
and you go.
made it work as well. I've been, like, Jimmy was kind of the same as me. He had only a few courses at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who actually, I think he participated is Simon Verstraete.
Right.
Which, he's very well known in the Houdini community.
Yep.
He makes tutorials for them. And he actually participated as well while having every course, and he did also pretty good. He was a finalist.
Right. Wow.
Like, that guy is a madman.
Yep.
But, yeah, it's possible, but I wouldn't recommend it.
Yep.
Per se, especially if you're like very confident that you would be able to pull it off.
Yeah, like that's always the thing though, because like if you want to do it, like go for it. Like there's nothing like we're not trying to say don't do it, but at the end of the day you have to figure out what's going to help you the long term. So every time when it comes to these different events, like there's so many different things going on that you can just be like, right, is this going to help me temporarily, or is this actually something that's going to be like, you know what, this is getting me a job? And at the end of the day, that's a question you have to keep asking yourself. And but that's the thing, like I always like to keep bringing up when it comes to your course, is the fact that there's these things going on all the time, and that's what we obviously, everyone who is studying right now, we all crave, like having these things surrounded us. And there's so many students out there who don't how can I say, they don't get involved enough. And when it comes to whether, even if it's something small, it's okay just to try it out. Like there was a talking. This actually ties into the next kind of topic. So the next topic I was kind of wanting to talk about was actually like your self-discipline. And obviously I understand that I've talked about maybe quite a bit on the podcast, but I like to kind of highlight its importance, because like, what's your thoughts? So like when it comes to keeping disciplined, and like how do you keep consistent, and how do you keep passion? Like what's your kind of do you have any kind of thing that helps you out when it comes to making art?
I would say be consistent and don't do it like in short sprints. Because I've seen a lot of people who, when the deadline gets close, they do like all-nighters and they really crunch, but then they crash afterwards quickly, like, and they don't want to do something. Instead, like, I just work a little bit every single time. Like, I try to keep it up, even when it's only the beginning of the semester, or it's even like holiday. I'm trying to always be busy with it, but never like too much.
Yeah.
So I like to go for a drink, for example. Then I do, like, things like that. I never take away from like social time.
Yeah.
Because it's important for me to keep my sanity in a sense as well.
Yeah.
I don't like being in a room like a week straight without seeing many people, even though sometimes it happens. But I try to keep that to a minimum.
Yeah. Well, that's a great point, because obviously when it comes to coursework, we always we get so caught up near the final moments, because we want to do the best result. But doing what Milan said there, if you just do it throughout, then you're never going to be stressed. I understand that we have deadlines, we have a lot of things going on, we have certain pressures that we put on ourselves naturally as artists, or just as people, because we want to improve, we want to make the best result. But doing these things as organized as possible is so, like, I can't like say it enough. Like, it literally just makes things so much better, because I was a culprit of that. Like, I was one of those people when I was studying, like, I was just doing work all the time and I wasn't being methodical. Like, for example, when my friends would be asking me to go out for a drink, to play pool, etc., you name it, just chilling in that, I'd always say no. 'Cause, like, I don't drink in that, but it doesn't mean that I can't go out and socialize. And everyone who's tuning in, even like say if even your last week, like, you got one more week to hand in your deadline, go out, have like, just have a break, because you're going to be so, I know you're going to be so much in the zone. Would you agree with me? Like, just chill.
Definitely. That's what I've been doing almost. Like,
Yeah.
it depends on how the exams person like goes, but sometimes like you just go for a drink, or you just hang out with some friends,
Yeah.
or just even work together at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to keep working, making my entry for Search for a Star.
Mm-hmm.
But I just worked together with some friends, and we just had a laugh. Someone else was also entering, that I don't know, for character.
Mm-hmm.
So we just a lot of times sat together, work together, which is also more fun.
Yeah.
And you can help each other out, things like that.
Yeah.
So keep it funnier for yourself. Don't drag yourself through the mud.
Yeah.
But while making art, it should be a fun thing. Let's put it that way.
It should always be like enjoyment at the end of the day. Like, everyone always stresses so much. Like, I don't know where it comes from. It probably comes from just the mentality, or just like the general person. Like, everyone always thinks, like, when they go to university, all they have in their back of the mind is, right, I need to get a job, and they don't realize that they can just relax and just take a step back, and don't, like, I understand it's good to put pressures on ourselves. Like, we all have goals and ambitions, but actually, when you take away certain pressures, you actually get closer to your goal, because you're just more relaxed. You actually just have more fun with it.
Yeah, and just work consistently and not hard. I would say, it's just don't do those days where you do like 12, 13 hours or even more.
Yeah.
But just do like consistent, maybe like 7, 8 hours a day,
Mm-hmm.
like you do at a normal job, and then you can just keep going for years and years almost.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's the best thing to do. Even when it's like holidays, you can take a week off when you go actually on holiday, but like when you're just sitting at home, instead of playing an entire game of video games, do like half a day, and then half a day of just maybe finding something online, having fun with some art.
Yeah.
And you don't always need to make a portfolio piece and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the things I've just made them in between as well.
Yeah.
And they don't end up with portfolio, but it's just testing something out or something like that.
Yeah. Like, you do, like, I'm really happy you said that, because that just like, a lot of people, how can I say it? I understand that we have to keep up to the trends, and we want to make sure that we're keeping up with everyone else, because there's lots of competition. But I like to say, like, you just have to do like even like a week or a few weeks, maybe a month. It's too extreme, but sometimes you just have to take your body away from art completely, like, just completely chill, because that next art piece is going to be so much better because of that. And that's actually a great kind of topic to kind of finish that part of the podcast on, because at the end of the day, it's like you said, it's all about having fun and enjoying what you do. Right, so thank you so much for everything you said in the podcast. It's been great having you on, dude. The next part, as always, we call it 500 seconds. I'm just going to go with this phrase from now on. We call it 500 seconds, but it's not. It's the fun section of the podcast. It's where all the fun random questions get thrown at our guest. And Milan, prepare yourself, my friend, because there's lots of good ones here today.
Right. I'm ready.
He's ready. Right, here we go. As you know, the latest trend has been Marvel for the start few questions. So we've got superhero questions first.
Oh no! It's like the one thing I don't know anything about is superheroes.
Okay.
Me, I know that I kind of hate a bit of passion.
Right, okay, that's fine. That's not a problem at all. We'll ignore the first question, but the second question, actually, we'll ignore the first two questions. It's okay. That's not a problem at all. I came prepared, my friend. It's fine. So, this is a random one. Would you rather be a hawk or a shark? And then why?
What or what?
Would you rather be a hawk or a shark? So a bird is like a bird or a shark.
Oh, let's go with the bird. Yeah.
So why would you choose a bird?
I don't know. Just seems kind of fun. Like being a shark, just having to swim all day. I don't know.
Too tiring.
More fun.
Very true. I would always have to go for shark because I think everyone knows it's my favorite animal, so I'd have to go shark. But then again, being a bird would be pretty awesome. Like being able to fly and just seeing everyone below would be really sick.
Yeah, it's not even that. I just don't want to be in the ocean all the time.
Yeah, that's very true. Right. So, would you rather be able to transform into anything and anyone in the world, or be able to or be able to teleport anywhere in the world?
Teleport for sure.
Oh, right. Why teleportation?
And because travel, I mean, you just go wherever you want. I
Yeah.
mean, how awesome is that? Like, oh, let's take a week off, and you just kind of go there. You go there. You
Yeah.
don't have to go to like one place. You can just go wherever.
Yeah.
I mean, it's no brainer for me.
Where is there any place you would teleport to? Do you have like any kind of country you'd be like, you know what, that'd be awesome to visit?
Oh, I've just been checking off lately. Like now, I'm doing like all of Europe last few years and next few years.
Mm-hmm.
But I would like to go outside of them now.
Yeah.
So see things like a lot of Asia,
Yeah. Oh,
things
I'm the
like that.
same. Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, kind of everywhere. I just want to see places.
Mm-hmm.
So
Like every time I see, do you know who Liam Wong is?
yeah, the lighting. Wait, wait.
The photographer. He's
Photographer. Yeah, yeah. The Tokyo things, right?
yeah.
Or, yeah,
Every time I see him post, I'm just like, what an adventure! Just amazing.
yeah. His stuff is great.
It's so cool. Like when it comes to lighting, and photography, he's the man you want to learn from. He's so
Yeah.
good.
That's why I said lighting first. I always think about lighting when I hear the name. This.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm the exact same man. The exact same. Because one of my friends, Alex, he's actually like this is the coolest thing that I think is so awesome, and I think so many artists have to start doing it. Is like what we're talking about is traveling. So like imagine doing this, man. This is so sick. So he works for Digital Extremes, but he's working for the company as he moves from country to country. So he's moving around with his partner. And he's literally like visited 10 countries already in like less than a year, and he's just like getting inspired by all this amazing culture. And I'm like, that is the life.
Yeah, I would be able to do it for a while, but I think you would burn out quickly as well. Like not having some routine and
Yeah,
stable friends, like oof, seems
I know what
like
you mean.
every few months is like a tough one. Every few years, yes, but
Yeah, I know what you mean. Get too much for you.
yeah, definitely.
But like that's also like the cool thing though. It's like I said, so like experimenting in different places. Like at the end of the day, we all want to see like what these foods taste like. You name it, all these amazing things. Like when you said, pardon?
Definitely, the food is also a big part.
Oh, food. Oh, well, speaking of food, what's your favorite food?
Yeah, all the Asian stuff.
Oh,
Let's
really?
put
Okay, nice.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just something that the taste, but not specifically the spicy things, but just they're more refined. I feel. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. It's like all the different flavors.
Yeah, definitely. It just speaks to me more.
Yeah, no, that's a good answer. I've always had like the everyone who's tuned into the podcast. I've always had the cliche kind of answer, but I just love steak that much. I have to say steak. Steak. So that's why that was so funny when I talked to Timothy. Like we literally talked about steaks for 10 minutes.
Yeah, I'd go for ribs above that. I feel like
Pardon?
ribs,
Oh yeah.
like
Oh,
spare
dude,
ribs,
good
definitely
choice.
above steak.
Oh, and then
Or
the
even
right
things like
sauce.
chicken.
Oh, chicken, amazing. Oh, we got a
Some
lot of
good
chicken.
sauce, like oh yes.
Oh, good sauce. All about the sauce. Right.
Yeah, some teriyaki.
Class. Right. Next question. Right. This is a fun one. This is
Ooh.
This made me trying to like. I didn't know which. Well, I think I've come to the conclusion what answer I'd go with, but I'm intrigued to see what you say. Right. Would you rather learn from Elon Musk or Bill Gates?
Elon Musk all the way.
Yeah, because that's what I was going with. But the only reason I was like Bill Gates, but this guy's he's learned it all. But then I was like, Elon Musk is like just a genius. He invents everything.
Yeah, it's just the engineer part in me that's speaking. It's like he's actually doing it, kind of.
Yeah.
He's part of the company. He's the engineer at the company, things like that. He knows how everything works.
Yeah.
Where he's for his company is just what a man.
Do you have a personal favorite of any of his projects?
What his personal favorite is, or mine, or
Like, do you have any? Is there anything that you like that he's made? Like, what kind of project do you think is like, whoa, that's really cool?
probably the Hyperloop. Even though
Yeah.
it's just it's an easy idea, right? Just take a tunnel and that's it. Like there's nothing more to it.
Yeah,
But actually pulling it off is gonna be a difficult challenge, and I want to see how that goes.
yeah. Well, like,
Um,
that.
And also, wait, now I think about. I kind of forgot about the internet. Like I can't remember the name, but the satellites, like the web they're making.
Oh wait, I've not heard of this. Tell me more about this.
Wait. There's like, oh, who can I not remember the name now? But they're putting like hundreds of satellites in an orbit around the world. So like at any point they can communicate with each other and with people on Earth. So you have
Right?
always internet everywhere.
What? Okay, I've
So
not I've not heard of this.
yeah, you should look it up what it's
Yeah,
called so you can reference it. But
I'll make sure to check it up after the podcast.
yeah, so it's basically like at any point they're always close enough to communicate with each other and send signals to Earth. So like it doesn't matter where you are, you will have internet access.
Yeah. Oh,
It's
that's super
a
cool.
very interesting one.
Like, 'cause that's always the thing. Like, every time Elon Musk is making something, you just like, it's either trending, and then the second thing, it's like, yeah, you just see right beside it, ran out of money because he's like experimenting that crazy because he loves doing what he does. Like, when he said about the tunnel, I was watching like an advert, well, not an advert, sorry, it was some sort of documentary. Well, it was like a small 10-15 minute video, and it was so fast, and you were just like, it's so obvious, like you said, it's so simple, but to execute it, it's like a whole other, like, especially in Los Angeles. I think it's Los Angeles that's getting made. I think it's Los
Yeah, so
Angeles.
there's already a tunnel from LA to the headquarters, I think,
Yeah,
something like that, which are doing test runs, but they're not that fast yet. They're running on like a decent speed still,
yeah,
but it's just it's an easy thing. Like I said, it's just a tunnel, but pulling it off is there's so many implications with that.
yeah.
That is it even going to be viable? I don't know. I mean, there might be like just a lot of people using it at one point, and it's not going to be viable anymore. But
Oh,
I just want to see where it goes.
well, like, that's the thing. So, like, this is like the really cool thing about when I saw this topic, or why I brought it up. So we all love, or we've all seen Star Wars, and we've all seen Total Recall, and just seen all the ships flying above the sky, and we're just like, yeah, if we do that in real life, we're screwed. Everyone's just gonna be crashing and falling, and it's gonna be mayhem. It's like, you
Yeah,
just know it's not gonna work. But when you see Elon just digging his and oh, this is the funny thing as well, Milan. So basically, you might know this already, but so the guy in charge, so Elon goes like, right, I need you to dig a tunnel, and the guy goes, okay, where are we digging the tunnel? L.A. And then he
yeah.
goes, what kind of tunnel? Circle, perfect. Learn a tool to make it, and he just got told just to make it. So he got given tons of money. He was just like, just go figure a way how to do it.
Also, like LA, like of all places to take a tunnel,
Yeah,
it's definitely the hardest one out there. Like,
yeah. Like, it's just like non-stop chaos. Everyone, like, there's literally millions of people there, and you're just like, the guy, like, the confidence in that man is unreal.
yeah, is it even confidence of stupidity at some point? I don't know, but I like it.
Yeah, like, did you ever watch his podcast with Joe Rogan?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
My mind was just like when he was
The
talking
point they
about.
started taking a hit, man.
Wait,
I
say that
don't
again.
even do
Sorry.
this. When they took a hit, like when they were doing weed, it's like I usually don't do this, and he started getting messages from people like, "Why are you smoking
Yeah.
on broadcast?" It's like that moment just like summarizes him.
Yeah. He just that's the thing that we love about him. He just bees himself. Like, he doesn't
Yeah,
care. He just like, that's the thing you've got to be. You've always got to be yourself, no matter what. If you
yeah,
love to geek out about, I don't know, Star Wars, then you geek out about Star Wars.
yeah.
You know, when anyone mentions Harry Potter, that means they're my best friend. Simple as that. That's just the way it goes. Right, the next amazing question, and it might either be the easy one or the hard one. Milan, favorite film?
That's the hard one
Oh,
because I,
here we
not
go.
because the reason you're thinking, I'm not that much of a film watcher.
Ooh, okay.
Yes, bit of controversial being in this like entertainment sector. I feel like,
It's okay. It's nothing wrong with that,
but
dude.
wait, let's say
You can say three
so,
if you want.
yeah, wait. So art wise, I want to say Spider-Man to the Spider-Verse just blew my mind
Mm-hmm.
what they did with the art. Then Shutter Island, it's like the one that it's not that famous. It's like
Yep. Is that the one with DiCaprio?
yeah, exactly. It's I mean probably a weird choice to put in like a list of like your favorite films,
Mm-hmm.
but I just watched it like pretty young age and it left a mark on me, and I rewatched it like a few years later as well,
Nice.
a few years ago, and I don't know, I still like it. It's um and let's put a series in there instead as well, Vikings.
Oh, good choice, good choice.
Yeah,
I've so on Vikings. Actually, we'll talk about all three of them because actually that's really good choices, by the way. So the first one was, wait, what was your first one? Sorry. So you said
Spider-Verse
Into
into
the
Spider.
Spider Verse.
Yeah.
So you're gonna hate me for this. So I only saw that this year. I think I only bought it like a month ago.
Yeah,
Was it a month ago or 2 months ago? I literally only just watched it recently.
yeah. For me as well. It's not a month ago, but like I think it's been half a year now.
Mm-hmm.
But I was kind of like, because it is a Spider-Man movie, I was kind of like, do I really want to watch this? Because Superman things again.
Mm-hmm.
So like all the superheroes doesn't say anything to me.
Yeah.
But I kept seeing art from it, and I was like, damn, this looks nice.
Yeah.
Like I should watch it. So I just watched it for the art in the end.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty nice story, and like it's a good movie in general and well, but just the art, like I really want to do something with that or
Mm-hmm.
inspired from that, but in real time, or it just kept me going.
Yeah. I just got the energy. You're just like, hell yeah, it's time to make some art.
Yeah. And also like how can I do, like immediately thinking when I'm watching is like how can I do things like that, but then like in real time, or like how can I make this procedurally done, or
Mm-hmm.
just shaders, like how would I make shaders for this so it looks like this? Just yeah, kind
Nah,
of did it for me.
that's a great choice because I don't want to say any spoilers because I don't want to say it's still not a year old. I don't think it's a year old. Is it a year old?
Yeah, it's been over a year now, I think.
It's been over a year.
I think.
Well, one thing I will say, I don't want. Well, we'll talk about this is go into Vikings because Vikings. Oh my god, amazing choice. So I'm actually at the second last. Well, I'm at part. So they've season 5. They've split into 2 seasons.
Yeah.
So I've just started the second part. So I'm on that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't think even I got that far.
Oh, right, okay. Oh, right. Man,
The,
I won't say anything, but it's great.
yeah, season 5 kind of lost me in the beginning. It's been a while now
Mm-hmm.
that it came out, I feel.
Yep.
But yeah, after what happened, like the first 4 seasons, and then kind of how it went, they kind of lost me a
Mm-hmm.
bit. But I want to rewatch it now because it's been a few years ago,
Yeah.
and I feel like I should do it.
Like I would recommend it. Like I know where you're coming from, and I understand because I was kind of the same. And then the second half of season
Okay.
5 came out, and I was like, Vikings is back,
Oh,
and
okay.
it was like I highly recommend it. But actually, so the favorite, like for me, well, actually, we'll ask. So, would you say, do you have a favorite, like another favorite show, or is Vikings like your favorite TV series?
Uh, I mean, there's some others I can't really recall. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, Viking just stands out for me in the way they executed on it.
Yep.
Just the the way they portray history that's not accurate, but it's good enough.
Yep. Definitely.
So there's so many events they're doing which are hundreds of years apart,
Mm-hmm.
and they do it like in one lifetime. But it's all flawless done. So like that's probably the thing that's got me the most. Like they portray history in a decent sense, but they don't stick to it to where points it's boring.
Nice. Nah, good answer. Because like there were so many series like last year that I was like so tuned into. Like my favorite series actually,
Oh,
besides what are you gonna say when you go?
Peaky Blinders. How did I forgot this one?
Wait, what's it called?
Peaky Blinders.
Oh man, you're gonna hate me. I've never seen it.
Oh, yeah. I was like this as well for like it's only
Start
been
it.
like a year and a half, 2 years
Okay.
now that I started it. But damn, that's a series.
Right. Okay. Like that's the thing. So I've got Ryan. The last podcast says I need to watch. Or what's it called? Westworld. And then now I have to watch Peaky Blinders. I've got so much catching up to do because
Yeah, Westworld is one I want to tackle as well.
well, that's the thing. Like, it's so hard because there's so many shows.
The
Like
time commitment, man. Like
oh,
you need to be able, like there's so many hours and there's like should I not?
it's madness because so the one show that I craved and everyone please watch it is Mr. Robot. Mr. Robot to me is hands like it's my top 3. So my top 3 shows I would have to say
No,
is have you heard of Mr. Robot?
no, I don't think I have.
Oh, so
Um,
basically it's like cybercrime and hacking. So
Right?
it's so it's so intelligent and it's so it's amazing. Like it's your mind will just be like whoa, like it just everything will just be like your the cogs will be turning. You'll just be like what's going on, and then it'll hit you, and you're just like oh that makes sense, and it's so well thought through. I highly recommend everyone tune in. Please watch Mr. Robot. Like
Yeah.
it's so nice. Right,
Right
so
now, yeah,
oh
right now I'm just doing BoJack because some friends have been saying like I have to,
oh right okay.
and because it's 20 minutes, I can just do it while eating, so
hmm
it's like perfect for that.
Yeah,
But other ones that are longer, it's just hard to commit like
I completely
an
understand
hour
that,
to it.
especially when you got your studies to do.
Yeah, and just in general, like thinking like, okay, I'm just gonna sit down for like an hour now.
Hmm.
I'd rather do like either work or social stuff, but this is like the in-between area.
Yeah,
So food is like perfect timing. So 20-minute series are perfect.
nice. Right, so we've done favorite food. We've not we've done favorite food. We've done favorite film. What's your favorite game?
um, I kind of feel obligated to say League of Legends
Hmm.
in the sense that it's just the game that it's been like the longest
Hmm.
attached to me. As in, it's been like 6 years almost since I started playing it, and I
Nice.
never really got into like competitive, in the sense that like I didn't play ranked or got ranked high,
Hmm.
things like that. But it's just everything around it that does it for me. So you have the competitive scene, which I like to follow. Um,
Who do you support competitively?
Fnatic all the way.
All right, I've always been so I don't know that much about League of Legends, but I'm a big fan of Nade Shot. So 100 Thieves.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't like following the NA scene though. It
pardon?
just the NA, like the North
Oh right,
America scene.
okay, yeah, yeah, I
It's,
understand.
yeah,
Well,
but hey, the Europe scene is just so much personalities,
yeah,
and
definitely.
it's just fun to follow that. So I'll just go with that.
No, that's a good answer. Right, here's the most stupidest question.
Okay.
I don't know why I'm asking this, but it just made me laugh. It's so. Would you rather begin every sentence with "Hey, idiot," or end every sentence with "Haha, I was just kidding"? I couldn't stop laughing, man, when I saw this.
Wait,
It was
wait.
so funny. Right, don't we
I
say it
need to think
again?
of the implications. So
It
if you
was
go for
so
the
funny.
second one, you can't say anything anymore at the point. Like
Pardon?
it's like just kidding.
So
Just
yes, so it's either would you rather begin every sentence with "Hey, idiot," or end every sentence with "Haha, I was just kidding."
yeah, but just like haha, just kidding actually has an implication of what you said. I feel
Yeah,
so. I wouldn't go for that one. And hey, idiot is basically just another way of saying oi, mate. I feel like.
that's very true. Okay, I see where you're coming from.
And if you just call everyone idiots, everyone's like on the same floor, so that's kind of fine.
Yeah. I was saying to Milan at the start of the podcast, I saw this stupid question, and I was like, should I ask him it? I was like, it's so, I couldn't stop laughing. I was like, I have to ask him. I'm so sorry, dude.
Yeah, I'd go for the first one. I mean,
First one, perfect. Thank you so much for answering it. That's the best question I've ever asked on the podcast. It's so stupid, but why
what
not?
an honor! What an honor!
Oh, we should put that in the intro. Oh god, I can't stop. I'm going red right now. I couldn't stop laughing. That's brilliant. Right. Oh, this one's a good one. Right. I think it's a good one. Right. So we got two more questions. Would you rather live one life that lasts 1,000 years, or live 10 lives that last 100 years, and you can remember each life?
Second one,
Oh,
definitely.
right. Okay. Why would it be the second one?
Um, Even right now, I feel like you just get alive and you just kind of have to go with it.
Mm-hmm.
But you you go from where you start. Like now, I was just randomly born in Belgium,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the life you will experience. So that's also like why you want to move and travel.
Mm-hmm.
You want to experience different things. Also, one and the first one is a bit of a guess, like not a guess, but it's you don't know where you will live. Like you just get the life you get, and then you have to do it for 1,000 years
Mm-hmm.
for the same. Like you might just get a shit life and or do like stupid
Yeah.
and have it fucked up for like the longest time.
Yeah.
While with the other ones, you get like new shots, and you might be born like some other place, something else, and you experience different things. I think that's the most thing.
Great answer, and I would agree.
Yeah,
The only thing about the 1,000 year, like I'm trying to figure out what would you benefit the most from it. Like I understand it's long, but if you remember, like there's got to be something that like I was looking through all like I'm always looking through these
yeah.
stupid questions. Like what could you gain from it? Like,
Your wisdom stats will be like the highest ever.
pardon?
Your wisdom stats will
Oh
be like
yeah,
the highest ever.
gotta get those steps in. Gotta get those steps
Yeah,
in.
man, I mean, just those stats. Just imagine.
Yeah, just like outranking, you'll be like, you know what? I'm the world record holder of most steps.
Yeah, but just like in general, is well, if you do the 1,000 years, like you get older and older, does
Hmm.
it like affect your body that way, or is the lifetime you have now stretched over the 1,000 years.
That's true. Okay.
It's a very important like distinction as well.
Yeah, there's so many things to come into play. You're like, am I going to be really old? And you're just going to be like, I don't know.
No, it would be the second one because then you have like 10 childhoods.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be sick. Oh my god, I never thought about it that way. No, 10 childhoods, that'd be class. Like every single
because we all
culture.
want to go back, right?
Yeah. Oh, darn it.
Life was easy, man.
Right. Elon Musk, please invent our time turner from Harry Potter, please. That'd be sick. Right. Last question is the one I ask every time. If you could have any animal or fantasy creature as a pet that's like the size of a laptop, what would you choose and why?
Oh, damn. Wait. Which animal?
So it's like you can have like any animal as a pet or like a fantasy creature. So it's going to be hard for you to beat Ryan's. So last episode we had Ryan on. And have you ever seen Fantastic Beasts?
Yeah, I watched that. Yeah.
So Ryan said the Bowtruckle. So do you know the wee little green kind of guy who pickpockets all the locks?
Yeah, the burglar kind of like in the beginning.
Yeah. So he said that merged with Groot, and I was like, that is a killer answer. But you can say anything. So what comes to mind? You can take your time.
But the first random thing that came to mind is a squirrel.
Oh, right, okay. This is an amazing answer. We're going with it. Why the squirrel?
But it's the first thing that came to mind because recently it's only been 2 sessions now, but I started for the first time playing D&D.
Okay.
And while making my character, I was thinking of things that are kind of fun to do. So I'm a gnome, and all of things like we were talking about pets. I was like, oh, I want a pet, and I was like, what could I take? And it ended up with a squirrel who holds a golden spoon. And if things come too close, he starts stabbing with the golden spoon.
Wait, what? So... Okay, perfect.
So yeah, I mean, just the same in real life, I guess.
So we've never had a squirrel on the show. It's our first
ever
squirrel
with golden spoon. It's a very important part.
Very specific detail. I like it. It has to have the spoon. Without the spoon, it's no longer. It's powerful. It's gone.
It needs to be golden as well.
Amazing answer. It's been a pleasure having you on the podcast, Milan. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, my pleasure. It was a lot of fun.
As always, everyone tuning in, make sure to check out his work. Make the most of it. As always, it'll be showcased on the background if you're tuning in on the podcast. If you guys are tuning in on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. Make sure to smash the like button, as always, and turn on notifications. Be notified every single day when the podcast is live. And as always, folks, we'll see you guys in the next episode. Thank you for listening.
See ya.